Assalamu alaikum and hello to my non-Muslim viewers. It's commonly said by Christians or Christian apologists or whatever that there's verses in the Book of Revelation. The Book of Revelation is the last book in the New Testament that says that Jesus is divine and He's God and things like that. So basically, Christians say that Jesus is God, and the Islam's version of Jesus is wrong. For example, if you know what Christianity and Islam say about Jesus, they say different things about Jesus. For example, Christians believe that Jesus is God. He's a part of the one in He's a one in three of the Trinity. He was crucified and he was resurrected on the third day. Islam completely rejects all this. Islam says Jesus is not God. Jesus is just a prophet, and Jesus wasn't crucified and he wasn't resurrected. So I'm not going to be talking about the crucifixion and resurrection here. I'm just going to be focusing on one verse in the Book of Revelation that completely refutes the idea that Jesus is God. Thus, the Islamic position that Jesus is not God and Jesus is a human and a prophet is confirmed from the Bible, from the New Testament itself. So Islam is not saying something new here. Islam is actually confirming the version of Jesus that's already found in the New Testament, that's already found in the Bible. So Islam's view or Islam's version of Jesus is correct according to the standards of the New Testament. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that there's verses in the New Testament that show that Jesus is not God, and he's just he was he was below God. He was a prophet of God. He was a servant, or he wasn't God, but he's not God, but he's like way below the standards of what God should be. This refutes the idea of Trinity, and this refutes the idea of the Trinity, and this refutes the idea that Jesus is divine and he's God and he's one in the third. So the verse I want to be talking about is the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 12, where the supposed divine Jesus in his glory also says that he has God. It says, and I'm reading from the Revelations, chapter 3, verse 12, him that overcome will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which come down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. So in the book of Revelations or Revelation, Jesus is um, saying that he has a God. So how can Jesus be God if he's saying he has a God? It doesn't make any sense. So basically, this confirms the idea that Jesus had a God, and he's not God. But so, like, notice what Jesus is saying in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 12. He's saying that he's saying that uh, he's saying that he worships, that he has a God. He says my God, and he says my God 3 times in that verse. So what that means is that Jesus has a God, according to the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 12. So that completely refutes the claim that Jesus is God. Because if Jesus is God, then how come he's saying he has a God in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 12? Now, Christians can come up with all kinds of mental gymnastics and so all kinds of tactics to try to explain away this verse, but this verse is a complete refutation of the idea that Jesus is a God. Because Jesus says he has a God, so Jesus cannot be God. Uh, Jesus is saying he has a God. He says my God. That means that he has a God, and not that he is that God. So the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 12, refutes the idea that Jesus is God by Jesus saying in that verse that he has a God. So that refutes the idea that Jesus is God and Jesus is part of that. Jesus is co-equal in the Trinity. Um, So again, I'm going to be making more videos about verses from the New Testament that prove that Jesus has a God and he's a prophet, and he couldn't do things independent of God. That means he was reliable on God. That means he isn't God. He's he's way below God. Because of Jesus relying on God, that means he doesn't have the same powers as God. That means he isn't in the same quality as God. Thus he's lesser, he's lower than God. So he can't be equal with God. So anyways, I just wanted to bring up this point when I was reading the New Testament or the Bible. So if Christians are saying, well, Jesus is God, and they're quoting from the book of Revelations, quote the Revelation chapter 3, verse 12, if you're debating online or in person or whatever, quote Revelations chapter 3, verse 12, where it says that Jesus has a God. Thus, he can't be God. He can't be God according to the standards of the New Testament, according to the last book of the New Testament, which is the book of Revelation. Thanks.